Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I did a video not so long ago entitled, "You Were Right, You Were Right," referring to collectively my entire audience. And I've been doing videos about civil asset forfeiture for a couple of years now. And that's the idea that the police can pull you over. And when they pull you over, they find that you've got valuables or money on you. They can say, oh, we think this is the fruit of a crime, or it's maybe going to be used in a crime, in a future crime, and they can take it from you. And if you want your money back, which has just been civilly seized, you have to sue them to get it back and prove that your money, in essence, is innocent. And it's an upside down and backwards concept, and most Americans think it's wrong. The only people who are in favor of it are police departments who do it and the cities that benefit, because quite often the police departments get to keep a big portion of what they seize. It happens at the state level and the federal level. Some states have passed laws to clean this up. Many states have not. And of course, the feds aren't moving on this either. So while I've been talking about this, somebody said, well, why don't they just pull over armored cars? They know they're filled with cash, and they can just seize it and go, yeah, we think this cash is involved in some sort of crime. And, well, we noted that it's happened now. The police have actually pulled over vehicles that were simply carrying cash because they were transporting the cash from one location to another, and they seized it. And so those stories made headlines, and I pointed out that many people in my audience had said this under videos. Why don't they? It's kind of like, why do you rob banks? Well, that's where the money is, as the old joke goes. So the federal government now says they will return over $1 million seized from the armored car company in California. The stories from the Institute for Justice, they do great work. I highly recommend you visit their website. And if you can support their work, please do so. And I've had people from the Institute contact me and say, Steve, thank you for mentioning us, because many of your viewers have visited our website and have contributed. And they do great work. They're doing work now that many people have said, no one else will do it except for them. And they rely on contributions to a large extent, and they're nonprofits, so that works out for you. Connor Beck wrote this story, though, about the government actually rolling over and agreeing to return this money, but only after some legal threats. The U.S. Department of Justice has agreed to return all of the money seized, 100%, approximately $1.1 million that was seized from Imperial Logistics during stops of its armored vehicles by the San Bernardino County Sheriff. It's a lot to unpack just in that one sentence. Among other things, the fact that they're agreeing to return all of it is a big deal. Because quite often, after they seize the money, if you say, I want my money back, they'll often say, tell you what, sign a release promising not to sue us, and we'll split it with you. And some people actually say, something, half of something is better than all of nothing. And so they'll settle that way. So the fact that they just came right out and said, well, we'll return all of it is a big deal. And of course, San Bernardino County sheriffs knew these vehicles were passing through their jurisdiction with all that money, and they just couldn't resist. They just couldn't resist. So the funds were transferred to federal law enforcement for civil forfeiture proceedings, and they're represented by the Institute for Justice and David C. Bass. That's who represents Imperial. And Imperial brought a lawsuit in January arguing that all funds seized were financial institution deposits from state licensed and state legal businesses. Now, what San Bernardino was banking on was the businesses were involved in the sale of cannabis. Now, that's perfectly legal where this was happening. But their argument is, well, it's legal somewhere else. It might not be legal here. And since there's still a question as to what the feds think about all this, they thought they were in the clear for seizing this money. Imperial has always viewed ourselves as a partner to financial institutions and law enforcement, says the CEO, Deirdre O'Gorman. Our service increases transparency and makes communities safer. Imperial is committed to continuing our mission of working with financial institutions and their state legal business customers. Imperial is a fintech and armored car company operating in 28 states that provides cash logistics solutions. They'll move your cash for you. And one of the reasons that this is happening here is that because of the federal question regarding cannabis has been made legal in many states, the sale and use of it, but the feds have still left it on their list of things that are verboten, as we might say. And so because of that, many of the businesses that do this, that is, sell it, cannot use your traditional banking institutions because they are all federally regulated. So they're forced to do these gymnastics with the money, and that winds up with using a company like Imperial to move your cash around. Now, the business includes secure delivery between legal businesses, such as state licensed cannabis businesses and financial institutions. By design, Imperial never transports cannabis. All they do is they transport cash. That's all they do. Imperial also serves a growing list of non-cannabis businesses, including some financial institutions, restaurants, and convenience stores. So it could have been money from a convenience store or a restaurant or even another financial institution. Now, in this case, it wasn't, but the point is that Imperial does all of those kinds of transactions. Imperial is operating legally under California law, but with the current federal civil forfeiture laws, even compliant businesses can be targeted. Civil forfeiture enabled law enforcement to seize over $1 million in legal business proceeds and threaten to keep it. And that's from an attorney named Dan Albin, who is with the Institute for Justice, a senior attorney there. Returning this money is the right thing to do, and we're pleased to have helped Imperial secure this outcome. In exchange for the return of the funds, Imperial will dismiss its case against the federal government over the seizures. The settlement announced, however, does not include the San Bernardino County Sheriff and does not affect a separate civil forfeiture action in Kansas, in which Imperial is represented by different counsel. So the same thing kind of happened to them in Kansas. There's a lawsuit there. And a portion of this lawsuit is still proceeding against the actors in California at the state level. But the feds have said, well, we'll give you the money back if you let us out. So they gave them the money back and they let them out. So that's the latest in civil asset forfeiture. And as more and more of these stories make the news, more and more people become aware of it. I got a note from somebody the other day. And one of the things that I've often said on my videos involving this, people say, Steve, what can we do? What can we do? And I say, well, number one, you can talk to your legislators in your state. Send them emails if you ever get a chance to talk to one, and tell them civil asset forfeiture is a scourge upon the nation and it needs to be looked at. And it's never at the top of the list of people, topics that people want to argue about. It's almost always something that people just way down here. There's more important stuff to fight about, it seems, every single election. And I've said, if you're lucky, you might get somebody who knocks on your door asking for your vote in an upcoming primary or an upcoming election. And instead of just telling them to get off your porch like I normally do, or meeting them, shaking their hand and taking their flyer, you might want to say, hey, wait a second, I do have something I want to talk to you about. And if this is a legislator or a person who wants to be a legislator in your state capital, you say, I want to talk about civil asset forfeiture. Now, there's a good chance they're going to say, I don't know what you're talking about, or I'm not up on that, because the problem is that it's actually supported by both sides because of the money that comes in from it. And so what you do then is make them sorry they got on your porch and start explaining to them and say, look, here's the deal. Civil asset forfeiture is happening. If you don't believe me, check out the Institute for Justice's website. They got all kinds of examples in there, egregious examples. John Oliver did an entire episode on it. I mean, it's out there. And say, if you get elected, need to fix this. And if they say, I've got to look into it more, what's there to look into? There's nothing to look into. And so if they say, I got to look into it more, you say, well, I got to vote for your opponent then. Because that's the wrong answer. And I got an email yesterday from somebody who said, Steve, sitting at home the other evening, and there's a knock at the door. And I went, and there's a guy nicely dressed, politician, looking for votes in an upcoming primary, I believe. And the guy said, I'm running for office. Can I count on your vote? And the emailer said, well, let's discuss the topic that's nearest and dearest to my heart. And the politician's eyes lit up. What is that, my friend? Let's talk civil asset forfeiture. And that's what they talked about. And so you could have the opportunity to do this. Whether or not it'll make any difference, we can't say. But things do change in our society. There have been big changes before. And it takes a long time for the pendulum to swing. It does. But once it gets moving, every little bit helps. So if you get a chance to talk to a legislator, talk to them. If you don't have a chance to talk to them face to face, but you think you might be able to email one or two, email one or two. And bring this topic up whenever you can. And make sure your friends know about it, by the way. And, these stories hit the news from time to time. There was a story about the Marine driving cross country to California to go visit his daughter with his life savings on him. Entire story caught on body cam and dash cam. Cop walks up to his truck. You got any cash on you? I wish the guy had said, why? Do you need some? They don't pay you guys enough? But he goes, yeah, I do. Turns out he's going to be truthful because he's a Marine. He respects authority. He's a law-abiding citizen. He fought for this country. And the police officer takes the cash and says, we think you're up to no good with this money. Just took the cash from him. And that can happen. And too many people don't want to hear about this because they go, it can't be happening, it's crazy, or those people deserved it. And yet you see stories like the Marine. And there are countless other examples of people traveling with cash. And the only argument I've ever heard people make other than that one is they go, well, you shouldn't be traveling with cash. Except there's nothing illegal about it. You're allowed to travel domestically inside the country with cash. You're allowed to. Money is not illegal. Okay? So civil asset forfeiture is something everyone should be aware of. We need to celebrate wins like this one. And eventually, if we keep on this, we can make it stop. Don't know when, but we'll keep on it. We will. So the story is sent to me by Paul, Josh, and David from the Institute for Justice to Define Work. Connor Beck wrote it. The federal government will return the $1 million seized from the armored car company in California. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Definition of log on: making a wood stove hot.